Hello and welcome to the Stamp Camp. I'm Glenda Calkins, your independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. Tonight I am going to take you from simple stamping to wow stamping. So we are going to be using the Easter Promise stamp set, which is from the mini catalog. So we have probably, let's see. The mini catalog goes till June, so we have a little while yet. But if you want to get in on the celebration products, they go till the end of March. So with every 50, you get something free. And they just released some new celebration items that you can get with $50 or $100 level orders. So make sure you go to my Facebook page. If you're on YouTube, my Facebook page is the Stamp Camp. And I have a list on there with the new celebration items that you can get. I'm trying to find the Easter Promise in the mini here. It's got to be, oh, right here it is. It's on page 45. So I will make sure that I'm live. Yep, everything looks good there. So let's change the camera. And here's the stamp set that we're going to be using tonight. It's called Easter Promise. It's on page 45. It's $19. This was the one I focused on last week, so now we're going to hit this one up, taking it from very basic, simple stamping to stepping it up to a more wow card. So I'm just going to make sure that we're all set. It looks like everything is going good. So let's get started. Here is the stamp set. Now, simple stamping. Simple stamping is your ink, paper, and stamp. So stamp, ink, paper. Very simple, very basic. Usually one layer. So these are my basic or simple stamping. Anything like this is simple for a beginner to get started on. There's no layering except for this one. I broke down and put a little bit of purple posy underneath the white. There is a technique on both of these cards. It's this technique right here. It's called clear block technique. So we will do that, but it's very basic, simple. But I just want to show you with just ink, paper, stamps, you can create gorgeous cards. So which color should I go with? The blue background, or this is the sea foam green, I think is what it is. Soft. It is the soft sea foam. So that's the green background. It doesn't really look green on my camera there. Or I have the balmy blue. Any request? Hey, Judy. Request? I will continue on. Is there a problem?
Right.
Is there a problem?
Well, I was just gonna make a change and put your thing on the other side because it's blocked by that live thing all the time. Is that okay or?
I don't care. That's
Okay.
fine. All right, so
Just so.
that's all right. Basic card, 4 1/4 by 11 or 5 1/2 by 8 1/2. So when you fold your card in half, your finished card size will be 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So you're going to get 2 cards out of one 8 1/2 by 11. Whether you cut them at 4 1/4 by 11 or 5 1/2 by 8 1/2, you're going to get 2 cards. So these open up like this. So then, because it's a purple or it's Highland Heather, I always put a piece of white on the inside for your writing, stamping. Now this stamp set is an Easter stamp set, but you could use it for Mother's Day. The flower in it is gorgeous, but we're going to go with the Happy Easter, and we're going to stamp that on the inside. Just going to make sure that my stamp seems to be on the block, semi-straight. And then I'll stamp it on the card stock, just like that. Now, if you wanted to, you could stamp the flowers on the inside. The stamp set also has this little cross, so I'm going to stick that on there. And then I am going to give the little bit of color, and we'll fill in our green. And this is the Granny Apple Green. And I guess I'll come in with some of the Highland Heather as well. I'm just going to color that in. Now, if you don't have the blends, you can go ahead and use markers. If you don't have markers, you could go watercolor pencils. Whatever you have on hand. So that's going to go on the inside. And then for the outside, we're going to do 4 by 5 1/4. I love the purple, pretty card, soft green. So I got a green and a, okay, the purple. Let's go with the green. Purple's the card base, so we'll go with the green for the square, which is done with a clear block. So it's a technique that you can do with your clear blocks. I always put the pad under when I do this technique. It just gives it a little bit cushion. This is the soft sea foam. The clear block that I'm going to use, you want to make sure that your block is nice and clear, clean, because if it has anything on it, it will show when you stamp it. So I just went to my kitchen sink and cleaned it with some Dawn dish soap. And now you're just going to ink it up. Try to get nice coverage over the whole block. Now with the balmy blue, I stamped off on my paper first because it is a little darker. With the soft seafoam, I did not. So I'm going to try to make this as straight as possible. And that's how I got that nice background. It just added to it. It gave it like layers. It made it look like layers. I'm getting a glare. I'm going to just set that aside, or leave that a minute while I do the bottom flower. Now all the stamps that I'm using are in the stamp set. I haven't added any extra stamps to it. Keep it a very simple, basic. Excuse me. I do have a cold. Which is why we're cooped up, right? So I'm just going to stamp across the bottom like that. One layer. Hey Bill, if you're watching, could you bring me a water? So I'm going to color in the bottom here with my blends. This is the Granny Apple Green. I'm going to need my glasses for this fine work here. So I'm just taking the blend and I'm just coloring in. Like I said, you can do it with markers. You could do it with colored pencils if you don't have the blends, but I do love the blends. And this does go fairly quick. If you love coloring, then you'll probably really enjoy doing this. There's a lot of outline stamps out there that give you that coloring outlet. I can tell my voice is probably not going to hold out, so I will try my best. At keeping it going. Then I took a little, the dark Daffodil Delight, and I colored in those flower centers. Then I have the Highland Heather. I'm going to start with the light. And color in all my flower petals. So with this whole quarantine, well, I don't know about you, but our state of Michigan is pretty much quarantined. We're not allowed to leave home unless it's necessity, which for me is a good thing. I have not been out in a long time. So what else do you have to do but to craft and stamp? I love it. I do work from home, and so does Bill. So we're still continuing to work, but not going out of the house. You can see it. These blends make it very quick and easy to color in your images. Apparently Bill is not watching any longer. All right. I was just checking to see if anybody had any questions. Now I'm coming in with the darker Highland Heather, and I'm just kind of going at the base of the flower or in the centers. And then I'll come back with the light and just kind of blend them a little bit. This is how I use the watercolor. I by no means am a perfectionist at watercoloring. But I love how the blends will blend everything out, and it just makes my horrible coloring look nice. So if it makes mine look nice, I would say anybody can do this. And it pretty much, they self-blend. I just don't want any real stark marks, but that looks pretty good. It's very pretty in person. So then I took the bigger flower from the stamp set. This is some kind of a lily, I think. I don't know. If you know what kind of flower this is, let me know. I'm sure somebody out there kind of knows what kind of flower that is. Oh, look at that. I got black on there. All right, so I'm going to show you how to fix that. Can you see that? Yep, you can see my little smudge. Yep, that's on the cardstock. Yes, it is. That's all right. So then I'm going to color in my image just like I did the other ones with the blends. Again, this is the Granny Apple Green. And this one is the dark. And sometimes I use the big tips and sometimes I use the little tip. It depends. If the finer tip I will do on the littler pieces, and then the bigger tip I'll use on the bigger images. Even though that was all green with the purples, you're going to come in and color over the top. It does change the color a little bit, but not that big of a deal. Thanks for tuning in and watching me tonight. But TV these days, if you don't have Netflix or anything like that, you're just going to sit watching about the coronavirus constantly. So I think joining me is a little break from all that, right? Maybe you'll learn a tip or two, which is always fun. So I'm just going to come in with the darker now and kind of blend away from the center. Wherever they have a little line, I might fill in a little bit. And then I'll come back with the lighter and we'll blend that. Like so. And it does dry a little bit lighter. So now we're going to fix that little boo-boo. Basically, I'm going to cut it off. So we're just going to change the look of the card a little bit, but that's okay. We're going to cut that down to about right there, which would be, if I cut it at 5 1/8, I might have it off. Nope, I got to cut it down a little bit. So we're going to cut it down to 5, which means I want to cut my sides down to 3 3/4. So I'm going to just take a little bit from each side so that I have it down to 3 3/4. So now my smudge is gone. So you can have a wider with the purple, or you can come in with, this is the purple posy. So now I can make a layer. So we're still simple stamping, we're just using ink, paper, and stamps. But we're gonna add just a little layer to it. So there's no mistakes in stamping, just some room for embellishing, right? So I'm going to take my glue and we're going to get this assembled. All right, and then this is going to go on the inside. That down. Now Easter, I believe, is April 12th. So if you are thinking of creating your Easter cards, you're going to want to get your order in for these Easter stamp sets fairly soon. Stampin' Up, shipping. For me in Michigan, I get it a week after I've placed the order. So if you live towards my side, they come from Utah. So if you live Michigan or this side of the United States, you're going to want to give it at least a week. But now with the whole coronavirus thing, they're running about 4 days more. So you're really going to want to get that in soon. So there's the basic card, the simple stamping. This one is really basic, how I meant to do it tonight. It's just stamped on here and put on the card front. This one I did add a little layer of the purple posy, which is, I added a little bit bigger layer tonight of the purple posy. So basically the same card, very simple stamping. I lost my Facebook people. So that is your basic card. Now we're going to step it up a layer. So when I step up a card, I like to add layers, which I did add layers here, but I add a little bit more wow factors to my stepped up versions. So we're going to start again with our Highland Heather cardstock, 4¼ by 11. And then we have our piece. Now you can decorate the inside just like we did on the front. Take your flower image all in a nice row and stamp that. And then you would color that in again. And then what I would do is take my flower, my bigger flower. You could put whatever, if you wanted this for Mother's Day, you could put Happy Mother's Day. You could do another Easter card. The choice is yours. Put that in there. It could even be for a wedding. This is a gorgeous flower for a wedding. Gonna take that and you're going to stamp your image, and then to step this up, I'm going to take the scallop squares, the layering squares, and create a layer with the squares. So the purple would be the bigger scallop, and then the flowers out of the plain square. So I already did that, so you don't have to worry. Just gonna stamp it. Now I normally will stamp and then die cut. So I wanted purple posy, so I have my purple posy frame. And then I am going to color this in. Luckily this does go quickly. Now the color on here will look different than it did on our simple card because we had that layer of green behind it. So now we're going to get more of a true purple. So did anybody mention what kind of flower this is? I'm thinking it's some kind of a lily, but I'm not really sure. Is my volume up? You're having a hard time hearing me. Is anybody else having a hard time hearing me? Let me know. Because I thought my volume was up, but I am kind of losing my voice too, so that could explain it a little bit. The more talking I do, the more my voice goes. Got to get that little inside there with the yellow. And then I'll come back in with the dark. You're going to really get sick of me coloring these tonight, because I did not do any of the coloring on these ahead of time. I did do all the row of flowers that will go on the front, but I didn't do these bigger ones. So you get to watch me, or you can color right along with me if you brought any of your stamp sets. Love that. Gorgeous. Purple is always a good color though. So 4 by 5 1/4 stamped and then colored on the bottom, just like we did on our basic one. I'm going to attach that. We're just stepping this card, same card, we're just stepping it up a little bit. Volume is fine on YouTube. It's a crocus. I googled crocus and it does look like that. Oh, a crocus. I think I've heard of a crocus. It's pretty. And now I'm just going to put some dimensionals on the back. You know I have a hard time with simple stamping. I love my bling. So I was pretty surprised at, I really like all three of these cards, from simple all the way up to wow. This one is just stepped up. That's gorgeous, stepped up just like that, but I stepped it up a little bit more and took our silver edged ribbon. This is gorgeous ribbon, and we're gonna have a bow on our card. So I'm just gonna, this is how I'm gonna estimate how much I need. That is my son's bow maker. He makes those bow makers. And you can find that on my blog, www.thestampcamp.com. If you scroll down the right-hand sidebar, you'll see his little bow maker there. You can order them. So now I'm taking the dark Highland Heather and I'm just coloring my ribbon. And this ribbon turns out gorgeous, colored in all the different colors. Love it, love it. It will dry a little bit lighter, but the beauty of the blends is that they go to the other side. So I don't really necessarily have to color on that side. I can just color the one side. Now I'm going to set that aside to dry because I have another one that I've already pre-stamped, or inked, not stamped. And I'm just going to tie a bow here. And I have that gorgeous bow, and we're going to stick that on there, and there you stepped it up. Quick, easy. Little glue. Get my ribbon here. And that's going to require a little bit of, hold that there for a second just to let it take hold. South Rochester. This is a very early flower for us in New York. We just throw the bulbs out in the yard and they blossom all over the grass. Oh my gosh, that would be so cool. We had snow on the ground here yesterday, but it is gone today, thank goodness. I'm hoping it's gone for good. So I'm going to let that set aside to dry, but that is our stepped up. Now we're going to go one step further and we're going to go to the wow card. So a wow card, same basic principle, but we're going to step it up even more. So this is the wow card. It has a different type fold. It's a little cut down a little bit here. So you're going to see this just like you did on the other two, but that's actually on our inside. And then I have embossing here, which is done with this new Parisian Flourish 3D folder, which I believe is on back order, and it comes out of China. So this might be on back order for a while. I heard that all our plants in China are running again, so that's a good thing, but it's probably going to take a little while to get here. So this is the wow card, and you're going to start with 4 1/4 by 11, and then I cut it down to 9 1/2. So you're going to score it at 5 1/2. So now it's 4 1/4 by 9 1/2. And then I have my white piece here that I went and ran that through that folder. It's hard to see. There, maybe. That white is very hard to see that. So that's going to be attached just like that. Yeah, they do manufacture some things in the US, but there's the dies, framelits dies, embossing folders are made in China. Everything else, well, and like the rhinestones, those are made in China too, but I believe the stamp sets, the inks, the paper, that's all made in United States. All right, so there's our white. It's very hard to see. So this time, to step this up, I use the scallop square again for my purple. And then for the white, for the square, I used the stitched shapes, which fit nicely in with those scallops. So it has that little stitching around the outside edge. So I'm going to go ahead and attach that. This one I did do a lot of the prep work up ahead of time, so you don't have to watch me color so much. So that's going to fit on there. We're going to pop that up just like we did on the last one. So I'm going to just kind of center that on there like that. Our inside piece, remember, because we cut it down, I stamped and colored it in on the bottom. This one, I'm not going to put the Happy Easter sentiment in there. I'm going to leave it. So if I have something I need a card for, and I think this one fits the bill very well for it, then I can put whatever sentiment on the inside that I want. Very pretty card. And then what I did was I stamped the flowers again, colored them, and hand cut them out, and then popped them up. Let's see, I need my teeny little. So this card, your wow card, just has a little bit more done to it as far as embossing and hand cutting. And then where's my ribbon? I just dyed. Oh, right here. And then I have my ribbon. So it's just stepped up a little bit more than the second card I did, just to give it that wow, a little bit different cut. Hand cut out the flowers. Just one, we'll glue those on. I'm glad my voice held out. So now I'll trim that down. So gorgeous card, like I said, it doesn't necessarily have to be Easter, even though it was an Easter stamp set. I think it would be very pretty for a wedding, for Mother's Day, maybe a thinking of you, a sympathy, a get well. I mean, it's just a gorgeous card. All three of them are. But that is taking your simple stamping up a few notches. I'm going to set that one aside because that needs to dry. So again, we have our simple stamping, stepped up stamping, and then our wow stamping. So all three, same stamp set, same colors, pretty much the same layout, just done a little bit differently. This one was done with a clear black, then we have used our layering squares, and then I stepped it up with the layering squares and the stitched shapes, and then embossed that background on there, which I know is hard to see on the camera. I got to take my glasses off. Maybe that helps. Yeah, I can see a little bit better without them on. So that is it. Fussy cut or die cut. This was fussy cut. This was hand cut. There is no die for this stamp set. It's only $19, which I think is a really good price for it. And it does not have any dies, punches, or framelits that go with it. But I did pair it with an embossing folder and the layering squares. Yes, I think it would be a gorgeous sympathy card as well. I love the Highland Heather. Purple is great. Love purple. So simple stamping to wow stamping. That was it for tonight. Again, thanks so much for joining me. If you liked the video, learned any tips or techniques, make sure that you share it. I appreciate that so much. It's what's keeping me going these days, you know. Visit my blog, www.thestampcamp.com. If you care to place an order, this is the hostess code for this month. I appreciate any and all orders. And stay healthy, stay safe, stay inside. That's it for tonight. Thanks for stopping by.